Hi guys, in this episode of Plumbing Thoughts On, I'm gonna be sharing my thoughts on the 13th episode of the 11th season of one of my favorite shows ever, The Walking Dead. And I definitely suggest you to check out my last video in which I reviewed episode 12 because there is some references that I made to this episode and how I feel about it, which I'm also gonna repeat here, but I feel like I might not mention some things in regards to this episode that I did mention in the previous video, and I feel like if you're interested in the full thoughts that I have about this episode, you should check that one out. But basically, to summarize what I said about this episode in that previous video, is that first of all, I definitely noticed and realized that there is a pattern with these episodes in this second third of this final season in regards to what is a good episode and what is not. Because if you've seen my reviews for the last few episodes, you'll see that it's not necessarily that I hate some of the episodes, but it's that I'm actually less enthusiastic than what the average fan seems to be. And it's not really because, again, those episodes are bad or anything, it's just that because I feel like those episodes are exactly the opposite of what I actually want to see in a way. And to explain to you more about that, for example, episode 9, if you didn't see my review of it, I enjoyed it, but I wasn't as excited about it as the episode thought that I was going to be. Like, it had these supposedly big moments, like when Maggie was walking towards Leah and shooting at the Reapers with the gun. Like, there was the music which was signifying this big and epic moment. But I really didn't feel like it was a big and epic moment. It really felt like there was no substance in that episode. Then came episode 10, which I really enjoyed because it gave us so much positiveness and happiness, and it felt refreshing and interesting, and it developed or pushed the stories of so many of the characters. It was really entertaining because of that, and I really enjoyed it. Then came episode 11, which again wasn't necessarily bad, and there was some refreshing stuff in it as well. There was definitely a lot of style behind it, but what it chose to focus on felt kind of boring. Even though it's not necessarily, and on a rewatch it was more enjoyable, as all of these episodes that I didn't enjoy have seemed to be, but it ultimately felt like a slog going through it, especially compared to episode 10. Then came episode 12, which I reviewed last time, which again, just like episode 10, I really enjoyed. And similarly to episode 10, it moved a lot of the characters' stories forward, and it gave us a lot of really cool and entertaining moments, and a lot of the dialogue and moments in the episodes were just really entertaining. In the same way like episode 10, it was refreshing and entertaining. And it was, I don't know, it wasn't a slog. It wasn't boring. I wasn't like for a second wondering whether we're actually going to get to the interesting stuff. And then comes this episode, which, at least unlike episode 9 and 11, it has a different issue. Not really much so about being boring, because I don't really think it was, at least not as boring as episode 11. But it focused on shit that I don't give a shit about. Because in this episode we get introduced to this new character called Toby? I think his name is, and he's like an ex-CIA guy who supposedly had moved away from doing CIA stuff. And in this episode he's essentially forced into returning to his roots by Lance, and ends up massacring a group which Negan turns out to be part of. And the thing is, the story of this episode is actually not bad. I like it. But first of all, Toby was an annoying character until he turned out to be the badass ex-CIA guy. He was annoying and infuriating. And second of all, why the hell are we doing this shit? Why are we focusing on this random group of characters in the final season? Why are we having this mini antagonist in this episode, in the final season, when we should be focusing on the Commonwealth. Like, why? We don't have that many episodes left. Why are we not focusing more on the Commonwealth? Why are we not focusing more on actually finishing up the stories of the characters that are not going to be getting spin-offs? Why? Why are we doing this shit? And on top of everything, it's continuing in next episode. It wasn't done in this episode. It's continuing in the next episode. And it's fucking infuriating, man. Because this final season, I had a lot of hype and a lot of excitement about it. But it's been largely a failure compared to what I wanted it to be or expected it was going to be. Because for a final season, first of all, it's not particularly exciting. For a final season, it doesn't feel like it's finishing. And for a final season, none of the characters really seem to be getting actual, like, substance stories. Like, even when we get the characters and we have them do stuff, it's largely just action and not actual substance. Like, for example, what the hell has Lydia done in the last 10 episodes? Or I guess you can even say 13 episodes. What has she done? Literally, the only thing that she has done, she saved Aaron. And in this episode, I guess she now has, I don't know, a thing with Elijah, who, by the way, I actually didn't realize how young Elijah is, because apparently they're gonna be making them a thing. I thought he was, like, maybe mid-30s, but apparently he's actually early 20s to mid-20s. So I guess it fits for them to be together. And it's a hell of an upgrade from Henry. Even though Henry was a badass with a stick, don't get me wrong, but Henry was a kid in comparison to Elijah. Elijah's a man. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest. It kind of has changed my perception on Elijah, but I'm getting a little bit sidetracked with what I was trying to say. I'm trying to say that this final season is not what it should be. Like, we know all these characters are going to be getting their own spin-offs. So why aren't we at least getting some finishing storylines for Lydia, for Gabriel? And yeah, we're going to be getting some crumbs, but we're not actually going to get storylines on which they are the focus of. And sure, in this episode, Gabriel and Aaron are the focus. But to be honest, what happens in this episode, essentially we already did it in the 19th episode of Season 10. We already did this shit with Aaron and Gabriel go and face off against this Warlord who is like a big threatening guy who is a homicidal maniac. We already did that shit. Like, the dialogue that Gabriel said when he was talking to this guy was literally straight out of that episode. It just infuriating. It just is. And yeah, it's ultimately because of my expectations, and despite the fact that I'm coming off really negative about this episode, I don't think it's bad. I'm just annoyed by their choices, and I know I said before that I don't judge story choices, but god fucking damn it. This is the final season, and you're not doing anything that you should be doing as a final season. Like I said in the last video, in this final season, we either should have focused on each character of the main cast for an episode and finish off their story in a meaningful way, or do the same but throughout all the episodes and give them an overarching arc for the season. Give a final arc to every single main character and maybe even some supporting ones. But no, we're just gonna focus on random shit and have random events in the episodes that nobody gives a shit about. Like that Connie episode that was episode 6, I think it was, is a cool and interesting episode, but it is filler. Eugene's episode was such a slog, it shouldn't have been a whole episode of that storyline. It has maybe substance for like 20 minutes, but not for 40. Like, The Walking Dead has always had goddamn pacing issues and has always had these random characters that come out of nowhere and everything, even when you go as far back as like season 4 and stuff, but god damn it, man, it's so annoying. It's so annoying. I don't know. I feel like it's probably just the stress of the fact that the show is coming to an end, and I really feel like I'm not gonna finish it satisfied, you know? Yeah, I'm not gonna waste this whole video on a rant about uh, my issues with season 11, but yeah, we're just gonna go over the story of this episode, which, again, it's not that bad. I think on paper it's actually pretty interesting. Aaron and Gabriel are recruited to go and meet a new random antagonist group that they could possibly get into the Commonwealth. And that one female character that we see in the trailer for this season turns out to be part of this group, but big fucking deal, because she dies. Why? I don't know. Why did you put her in the trailer? I don't know. Because it was a waste of fucking time, and it's a waste of a cool looking character with a cool weapon. We couldn't even get that. We couldn't even get this cool looking character with a cool weapon. Because she died. And the leader as well. Which I gotta say, it is kind of weird how Negan is actually not the leader of that group. But this guy is like, it would have been really interesting to see Negan and this guy have a talk. Just a talk, because I can't see Negan being the follower type, you know? And obviously we all saw it with Negan being part of the group. It wasn't a shocker at all when I saw him at the end. Although I really like how he instantly told the kid to run to Hilltop because he knew that that place is safe. Like, I don't know. It definitely made him feel like a good guy now. My favorite moment in this episode is almost pretty much definitely the scene when Aaron and Gabriel meet Toby, or should I say Gabriel meets Toby for the first time when they're in front of the location where this new group of enemies is stationed at. Because there's that scene there where Aaron and Gabriel are worried about going and talking to this group because it seems dangerous, and with the Commonwealth soldiers not going with them, just instead setting up camp and staying behind. Even when Aaron first talked Gabriel into going with him, he was kind of unsure about it, and then when he sees how nonchalant Toby seems to be about meeting this group of 40 people when the biggest group that they've brought into the Commonwealth was 4, he's like, he just looks around and he's like, yeah, I'm not doing this. It had such a I don't give a fuck energy, especially because afterwards, after Toby asks him whether he's getting scared, he says, no, it's just that your plan is shit and I don't want to die. I really like how no fucks given Gabriel is. That's why I honestly really like Gabriel and Aaron now. Like, that episode last season, that was episode 19, really made me love their characters. Which I think is one, like I've talked before, I think is one of the reasons why a lot of characters in The Walking Dead, after Gimpo took over, never really stuck as much, because they never were really given the focus. Because like I said for that episode when I reviewed it, episode 19 of season 10 felt like an episode from the second half of season 6. It genuinely felt like that's when it should have happened, because it fits with the characters and where they are mentally in a way, and it just fits because it would have made me more interested in their characters going forward. But now I am. And like I said, this episode is kind of like a rehash of that a little bit, but I don't care. I just really enjoyed that scene, and honestly, just for that one scene of Gabriel being like, yeah, fuck this shit, I'm out. It was worth watching this episode for that alone. It was really funny. I really enjoyed that. It just really shows his growth, like how much he has grown as a character. Like, I really like Gabriel's attitude nowadays. And to be honest, this kind of like I don't give a fuck attitude started all the way back in like season 6 or 7 when he talked to Spencer and said that hating Rick and wanting him to be dead doesn't make you a sinner, but it does make you a tremendous shit. I do remember that scene. It was really funny back then, and I love what they've done with Gabriel's character. He's definitely one of my favorite Walking Dead characters, which is kind of crazy to think about that. But yeah, I really enjoyed him. And honestly, ultimately, Toby, I do think that he's an entertaining character, especially once he becomes like the proper CIA thing and his cover is blown, so to speak. He's pretty entertaining. I like the actor. He does a pretty good job. But, like I said, I don't think this character is from the comic book. So I don't understand why the fuck they decided to create this guy and shove him into this episode. Why? Like, this is material you should keep for Tales of the Walking Dead. Not for an episode in the final season of the main show. Like, it feels like it comes out of fucking left field with no build up, no rhyme, and no reason. And I'm sure he's actually gonna get disposed of next episode. So, again, a waste of fucking time. And even more so when we have this other guy who is the leader of this group, who I enjoyed what they did with him, but he is both a rehash of Mace, who is the guy that Gabriel killed in the Gabriel and Aaron episode in season 10, and also a rehash of Pope, because this group is also religious apparently. And he was enjoyable, and I really liked the reveal with like the skulls behind on the shelf. It's cool, it's horrifying, but he went on a little bit of like for 5 or 10 minutes we got a lot of screen time for him, only for him to die later on. So again, a waste of time. Cool, you brought this actor for a 10-minute scene, and now he's gone. So we just waited 10 minutes that we could have used on characters that are more integral to the plot. I don't know. That's just kind of my issue with this season. It's not doing the things that I want, and instead it's doing things that I don't care about. Even if they're good, I just don't want to see them. I want something else. And again, I know that I usually say I don't judge story choices. And I try to, man. I try to, but this is just so dumb. Like, it's not fucking rocket science what you're supposed to do in the final season of your show. Wrap up the character arcs. And it's very important for The Walking Dead to do that because it's a character-driven show. And as much as I like a lot of the things that Angela Kang has done as a showrunner, I feel like she focuses too much on plot over characters. And I'm curious if you guys think like that as well, because I haven't really seen anybody talk about that, but I think that's why The Walking Dead hasn't been as exciting in season 10 and 11. And in season 10, the episodes that were actually really exciting for me, which were episode 18, episode 18, 19, 20, and 22, were the most character-driven ones. And in general, 10C was a very character-driven bunch of episodes, which is why they are my favorite episodes of season 10. I want character-driven The Walking Dead. That's why Fear the Walking Dead is so good in season 6 and 7, despite the people's stupid whining about it. And that's why I'm more excited for Fear the Walking Dead Season 7B than I am for The Walking Dead Season 11C. Because one is definitely more character driven. Yeah, I don't know. It just bothers me. It's probably not gonna bother me on a rewatch because you don't really care about stuff like this on a rewatch. But when you're watching a show live like this, it just bothers you, especially on the final season when you know that there's not gonna be any more. So any mistake they make now in not finishing it off properly is done. Even with the spin-offs, we're probably never gonna see Aaron after this. Maybe in a random Tales of the Walking Dead episode, but doubt it. Yeah, I don't know. Before we get into my notes for this episode, though, I do also want to mention that one scene when Toby was pushing the people off the roof. Which, first of all, fucking terrible CGI. I hate that. Second of all, why can't we see them splatter on the fucking ground? It does seem like we're gonna see at least the dead bodies moving in the next episode, just like we did for Will's dead in Fear the Walking Dead. But why can't we just see them splatter on the ground? Why are you hiding the gore? Why? Like, The Walking Dead in this final season can't fucking even satisfy me on this basic level. You can't even give me the gore, and you expect me to enjoy your shitty plot that focuses on things that I don't give a shit about. And I don't understand why they're doing that. Why? Why? Somebody explain to me why they're hiding the gore. It just annoys the hell out of me. It's a zombie show, goddammit. Like, at this point, even season 7 and 8, which obviously had their gore toned down because of what the criticism towards the Glenn death was, which, by the way, if you hate how gory Glenn's death was, go fuck yourself. I'm sorry, but do go fuck yourself, because this is a zombie show and you should know what to expect. It wasn't too gory. It was exactly as gory as it should have been. But for whatever reason, because of that, in season 7 and 8, they kind of toned down the gore. In season 9, they actually brought back the gore, but for whatever reason, they're kind of losing it again. And it's infuriating, because if you can't satisfy me on the basic level of action and gore, you have failed. Although, at least in that scene, they nailed at least kind of like the unseen horror of it, because we kept hearing the bodies fall down and the people scream, and it was harrowing, for sure. It was harrowing hearing them fall and knowing that our characters can't do shit about it. But I still would have liked to see at least one splatter on the ground, goddammit. It's already CGI. For fuck's sake. Yeah, I know I'm coming off a little negative and whiny in this review, but I'm just kind of pissed off. Because this episode is an epitome of a lot of criticism that I have for current The Walking Dead. So yeah, let's go through my notes, I guess. The first thing I've written about this episode is cool arrow shot, which indeed it was a cool arrow shot in the beginning of this episode of Elijah shooting at a walker. And also, I really liked in the beginning there how Elijah and Marco, I think that's what his name is, were kind of having this kind of competition like what Legolas and Gimli have in The Lord of the Rings, of like who kills more walkers. Like, that is kind of cool. I really like that. Yeah, that's the same shit that I've written afterwards. Some Gimli-Legolas rivalry. Next thing I've written is, what was that about between Lydia and Elijah? Which again, I'm gonna reiterate, I didn't realize Elijah was this young. I thought he was much older. And I don't know, it just feels kind of weird. Just like how, I think in last episode I talked about how it feels weird for Lydia to be with Maggie at Hilltop, because Maggie wasn't there when Lydia was originally there. And it just feels weird for these two characters for completely different storylines being in the same place. It's kind of how it's weird for Morgan and Alicia to be on the same show. They come from fundamentally different worlds that it's still... my mind just still doesn't make them fit. It's like trying to combine two different colors of paint, but then not mixing together and instead just being these two colors standing right beside each other. It's kind of the same for Lydia and Maggie, and it just feels weird for Elijah to be into Lydia, especially because I thought he was much older, but apparently not. And yeah, next thing I've written, Elijah younger than I thought. And next thing I've written is Lydia plus Elijah. I don't like it. And that doesn't mean that I hate it, but I definitely don't like it. So there's that. Next thing I've written is something interesting that I actually completely forgot about. That being, why does this feel like the old days? I'm getting some season 3 vibes. And I think that is in relation to when Maggie decides to go with Lydia, who was about to leave Hilltop for the Commonwealth. But one of the guys who was working with Aaron and Gabriel and Toby in taking those that group of enemies, he gets chased and he dies in the beginning of the episode, which prompts Lydia to want to go and see what that's about. But Maggie doesn't want to involve herself in that, but then decides to go, and they all get into a pickup truck. And with also the way that it was shot, like, we haven't really had those kind of scenes with our characters not currently in a war with a villainous group travel to do somewhere. Like, it reminded me a lot of season 3 and season 4 with like our characters going for supplies and stuff, and I really like that. In talking about that, also I kind of liked the discussion that Maggie and Lydia had there about what is the right thing in relation to whether they should work with the Commonwealth or not. And I like how it makes sense with the way Maggie explains why she's not she doesn't want to involve herself with the Commonwealth, because their community hasn't been challenged properly in the zombie apocalypse for 10 years, and they are gonna get challenged sooner or later, while Hilltop has been challenged many times. He has survived and continues to survive all this time. While on the other hand, Lydia and Elijah, mind you, both think that I don't exactly know, didn't understand exactly what they mean, but they think that what the Commonwealth is providing of like a normal world is something that is worth the sacrifice, you know? And it makes sense for both of them, especially because if Elijah is also in like his early to mid 20s, because they both started the zombie apocalypse as kids or teenagers, so they haven't gotten much of that normal world beforehand, or at least not as much as like Maggie, who was in her, I think, early 20s or mid 20s when it started. So it makes sense why they stand like that, but it's an interesting generational divide is what I'm trying to say. Next thing I've written is, why is Gabriel so skinny? And I've seen other people notice it as well, but like, I don't get it. Why the hell is he so skinny? I don't think he was that skinny in like season 10C. It seems like he has gotten skinnier somewhere during the production of the first third of this season, because in like episode 3 he didn't look skinny, at least not noticeably so, but in the mid-season premiere he did look skinny for sure, and maybe even in the mid-season finale he looked a little skinny, and especially now in this episode he does really look quite skinny, and I don't understand why. Is it the clothes, or has the guy gotten some issues or something? I don't know. The next thing I've written is Aaron working for an NGO being brought up again. I mean, it makes sense with the Commonwealth for them to bring back what our characters were doing beforehand. And it's really cool how they're actually employing him, basically doing the same thing. He's working for an NGO to help other people. Like, it's cool. So, next thing I've written is Gabriel has become such a fun character. Yeah, I'm not doing this. Yeah, I already talked about that scene. It was such a funny scene. It really made the episode for me. Like, if there's anything about this episode that makes me want to rewatch it, it's that scene. Because that scene alone, I've rewatched like 20 times at this point. Next thing I've written is a smartphone in The Walking Dead. Yeah, that is not something that we see much in The Walking Dead. The last time we saw a smartphone was, I think, when Michonne found out that Rick might be alive. And it's kind of weird to think about that, because the zombie apocalypse started in 2010, and we did get some smartphones early on in Fear the Walking Dead. but it feels like it started before the advent of smartphones, considering we don't really see them, which makes sense again, because it's the zombie apocalypse. What are you gonna use it for? But yeah, I don't know. And it was kind of interesting how, just like when he met Rick, like when Aaron met Rick, he has a bunch of pictures of the community that he comes from, but back then it was with a black and white camera and it was on paper, while now it is on a smartphone. So that is really cool. I guess it just goes to show how developed the Commonwealth is. Next thing I've written is, of course Negan is there, as expected. Like I said, I'm pretty sure everybody predicted that he was gonna be with that female character who looked cool in the trailer, who has the scythe, who was the female character from this group. Shame that she died though, and also that woman, black woman with the black hair, she was also part of that group. Again, duh. Next thing I've written is, she's a love interest, and it does seem like it's gonna be the case, like she's gonna be a love interest. It's really, I'm so sure that some people who whine about woke TV shows and the like are definitely gonna complain about the fact that like the three main male characters in this show who are also white all have gotten black girlfriends. Rick with Michonne, Daryl with Connie, and Negan with this woman whose name I still don't know. Because it does seem like they're gonna be a couple. We'll see whether that's gonna end up being the case, especially considering the spin-off that is happening, Isle of the Dead, but that's the impression I am under, so I guess we'll see. And personally, it doesn't bother me, but I cannot not notice it. Like, I don't care. But if it keeps happening, it does seem like an intentional choice, at least. But again, it doesn't bother me. I don't really care either way, as long as it's like an entertaining relationship. And the final thing that I've written about this episode is, I guess, a really good ending statement for this episode. Why focus on this shit? And yeah, that is the question. Why focus on this shit? It's not bad, but it's just infuriating that we're doing this instead of getting actual meaningful character development for the characters that we're not gonna see more after this final season is over. It just seems like a waste of time. And it's not like it's mind-blowingly good enough to justify wasting time on this. But yeah, I don't know. I'll still rank this episode pretty high though, because I think it is a pretty entertaining episode, all things considered, but it's just that the issues that I have with this are issues that I'm bound to have on a first watch. Because like I said, when you're rewatching it and when you're binging it, it's not gonna bother you. I'm sure if I watched all the earlier seasons, I would have had the same kind of issues, because you can go even as far as back as season 4 to have random characters out of nowhere get a bit of a focus. Like for example, with season 4, remember that chick named Clara who was like very dirty, and she was in the forest and she kept her husband's head, and Rick met her in the forest while he was out for food or something. I don't remember. He was gathering something, and he even thought that she was a walker at first. And yeah, that's the same kind of stuff that we have right now. So it is ultimately because I'm watching it week to week that is annoying the fuck out of me. But yeah, ultimately it was still a pretty entertaining episode, so yeah. In terms of a rating for this episode, I think I'm going to give it a 9.3 out of 10. I still think it's really entertaining, and the gap between my opinion and fans' opinion on this episode, I don't think it's that big. But I'm still annoyed by the fact that we're focusing on this shit that was introduced in this episode and not on more meaningful stories, you know? But yeah, I am curious to see what do you think about this episode, so comment your thoughts down below and let's have a discussion about it. And also, before we end this video, I just want to give a huge shout out to my currently 3 patrons on Patreon: Omar Bridgman, Deadpool, and Shenchez. Thank you guys for your support. I really appreciate it. It really means a lot to me that you have decided to support me. You have continued to support me for such a long time. I hope you continue to enjoy my content and continue to support me going forward. Thank you very much. And now, before we end this video, I just want to talk about something to you guys very quickly, which some of you may or may have not noticed before or know about me, that being the fact that I am trans. And yes, this may come as shocking to some of you because I don't really flaunt it that much on my channel, or at least I feel like I don't. Outside of like my K-pop reactions, which is where I feel like the most comfortable being myself like this. And yeah, I am in fact trans. I'm not necessarily full-on male to female, but I heavily want to transition to being pretty female. I do consider myself more non-binary though, or maybe gender fluid would be the best descriptor as well, because I do have occasional moments where I feel fine being like just a normal guy, but most of the time, like right now, I do feel very dysphoric. And that's why I'm asking you guys for any help that you can give me, because my situation right now, I don't really see any way outside of you guys' help. Because, and this is gonna be kept short and concise, I live with my parents. They're never going to accept me as a trans person. They just never will. And as a matter of fact, back when I started the YouTube channel, I was actually kind of slightly starting my transition back then, with like starting to grow out my hair. I even got to DIY HRT, but because my parents started noticing certain things, like my behavior had changed a lot and my clothes had changed a lot, I kind of had to stop doing that because they were constantly nagging me about cutting my hair and just started to kind of be threatening in a certain way, and felt like they were ashamed of me and everything. And that just kind of stress just tired me out to the point where I just gave up. But as dysphoria goes, it just doesn't go away, you know. I still feel like this, and in fact it's somewhat been intensifying again recently, so I just wanted to share this with you guys. And again, I would really appreciate any amount of support you can give me in regards to this, because I just don't see any way out of this. Because even if I moved out of my parents' house and got myself a job and everything, that's just not gonna work for long-term planning, because once I transition, it's like I probably will not be able to get myself a job, because my country is very transphobic. Nobody gives a shit about LGBT people at all. So there's not even much I can do even in terms of transitioning here. So yeah, I don't know. I just would appreciate any amount of support you can give me, be it monetarily or in any way otherwise. And this is not about boosting my channel or anything, or guilt tripping you with my sob story. I just wanted to get this off my chest and make my subscribers aware of the situation that I am in, and that I would appreciate anything that you guys can help me out with. It would mean literally everything. Like, for example, a friend that I made after starting this YouTube channel, my good friend Yuri, has been helping me out a lot. And I genuinely might have not been here if it wasn't for him showing up and befriending me. So yeah, this just went a little bit longer than I intended, but I would just really appreciate anything you can support me with. That's kind of ultimately what I'm trying to say. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave a like and subscribe. Also, check out the description to my Twitter if you want to follow me over there, and to my Wattpad where I post my stories, because in addition to doing all these videos on my channel, I'm also a writer. And if you enjoy my stories or simply enjoy my videos, you can head over to my Patreon or to my Ko-fi account, where you can pledge your support and help get the channel going, help support me so I can keep writing stories you enjoy. But if you don't want to do it, that's completely fine. You can still help me out in other ways, like liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and especially sharing this video to someone who you think might enjoy it. And I think it's pretty much it for this video, so hopefully I'm gonna see you in the next one. Bye!